Hi everyone, welcome back to Liz Sews and my monthly makes for April of 2022. So hi everyone, welcome back. This month I have sort of a much more diverse offering than I've been doing the last couple months. So I've got some knitting projects, I've got some bra making projects, and I have a sewing project that I wanted to share with you guys. So let's dive in. First up, let's do knitting. So what I'm wearing here is I believe it's the Anker Summer Tee from Petite Knits. She has several items in like that Anker series, depending on like what yarn you're using. So I picked the one that was for fingering weight yarn. And so for this sweater, I've used the Drops Baby Merino in the color beige. I had purchased this yarn on accident. I thought I was getting the next size up, so I think it's the extra fine merino, but I had actually ended up purchasing the baby merino. So that one it's classified as a sport weight, but I had no problems getting it into that sort of like fingering gauge that the pattern called for. So this is a superwash yarn. I had much better success with this one than the last one I did in the superwash yarn. It is really soft. I wanted to make this one for this more like spring transitional time where we're still getting cold nights. So actually in May we ended up still getting snow. We had a 90-degree day, and then the following day it snowed. So the weather is super crazy. But I really like this a lot. I think it's comfortable and I don't get too like hot or overheated in it. So the top of the yoke is like a 1x1 rib that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I really like that textural design on the top there. And then the rest of it is just plain stockinette stitch with some short sleeves. So a lot comfortable to wear because it's fingering weight. It's more lightweight sweater, but also because it's superwash and stuff like that. So I'm pretty happy with this. I also think it's like a good color to wear also in like the fall time as well, layering. So I think it'll be a nice addition to my wardrobe. So the next one I have to share is, I was working on this last month, so I finished this one up, and this is the Piper sweater. And so it's like a drop shoulder, very oversized. I want to say the pattern has about like 8 to 10 inches of positive ease in it. This is the first sweater I've done flat. So the entire body was worked flat from hem up over the shoulder, back down to the hem again. And then the sleeves were picked up while it was still flat, and the sleeves were worked flat as well. And then the final step was just to do like a seam line running from the wrist up into the armpit and then back down to the hem. So that's one continuous seam running all the way down the side. So I can't say that I love flat construction. I felt like the seaming was super annoying, like I just wanted to be done. The reason why I had chosen this sweater to make is because I wanted to get a little bit better at purling. And this one uses, I don't know if it's like a specific design, but where you have 2 rows of stockinette and then 2 rows of garter. So you actually only have to purl once every 4 rows. So it's a lot less purling than just working something plain in stockinette. So that was kind of nice. And the garter stitch rows are using a contrast yarn as well. So I used 2 colors of the Lion's Comfy Cotton. The main color is called Whipped Cream, and that's just like this solid color. And the contrast color is called Chai Latte, which has, I don't really understand the Chai Latte name, but it's like pinks and blues and like beiges. But yeah, I think it looks pretty nice. This is warm. I've worn it. I was thinking that it would be a lighter weight sweater because it's like a cotton and I think polyester blend. It was like 50-50. So I was thinking because it was cotton, it would be a lot more lighter weight and something I could wear in the summer. But I got quite toasty in this. I've worn it a couple days this month after finishing it. It is a rather loose knit. So this yarn is classified as, I think, a DK weight, but the pattern designer wanted to knit it up like a worsted or Aran weight, so you used a lot bigger needles than what like I would typically use for this yarn. And so it has a very like open structure to the knit pattern on there. I'll try to, if I remember, I will pop up a little close-up video of this so you can see what I'm talking about. But yeah, as I said, it's still pretty warm. Because this is a cotton polyester, I can throw it in the wash, so that makes it super nice. But And then in terms of wear, I was thinking that it started to look a little halo-y, like it looks like there's fuzzes on it, but I'm not seeing any pills yet. So there's that. And then the last sweater that I did this month just zoomed by. This one is using some Malabrigo Rios yarn, which I'll talk about that a little bit later. And this one is the color Cucumber. So for this sweater, I've chosen a pattern that was my very first pattern that I ever tried, which was Brick. And this is a free pattern. So I wanted to give it a go again now after having about 10 or 11 sweaters on my belt to see how it turned out. And I actually really, really love this one. So for this sweater, I cropped it a little bit shorter than the pattern. I believe I went down 17 inches from the neckline in the front, and then I did a bunch of short rows that made the back a little bit longer. So hopefully you can tell as I'm holding this up that you can see the back is a couple of inches longer because I wanted to go for like a high-low hem. So I did that, and then once I had done all of my short rows to increase the back length, then I went back around in the round and did 3 inches of ribbing. So I did get 20 inches total on the front, or 20 inches from the collarbone in the front, which is my preferred length. But yeah, really, really like this sweater. It's just a simple raglan. I think the only thing that I don't like about it is that you have to come in after the fact and pick up stitches all around the neck to do the neckline. So I think that I'm gonna set this aside. I don't know that I'll use it again. I kind of want to find another raglan style pattern where it started from the very top, and so you do the ribbing for the neck and then move into the body, and then it's shaped with short rows, because this one is started flat, and I think that's why you have to do the neckline after the fact. But I wore this yesterday. Let's see, I started this on a Friday and I finished it the following Thursday, so it took me just under a week to finish. Really, it just flew by, and really happy with how it turned out. I did wear this yesterday, and I am noticing some pilling on the arms and like on the side body, which is to be expected with a superwash yarn like this, even though it's plied, but it's not too bad. And I'm thinking that I just have to keep on it and depill it, and it should be fine. When I was knitting with this Malabrigo Rios, I did find an awful lot of those little extra tufts of like fiber. So I wasn't surprised that I was seeing some pilling. So I think I just need to like work through all of those extra tufts, get those taken care of. And then I'm hoping the sweater will wear a little nicer. I will say it's incredibly soft. I thought this stuff was soft before I knit with it. After knitting and blocking this, it's really soft. It's like a little soft, fluffy little bunny. So yeah, really comfortable. I wore it next to skin, didn't have any issues yesterday, was just soft and lovely, and this color is just beautiful. So this is a hand-dyed yarn. It is the most consistent of the ones I had purchased. That's why I wanted to try it first. I tried to do helical knitting, but I hated it. It was like looking really, really bad. So I didn't do it very much. I just did it when I was like transitioning between different skeins, as I would do like 4 or 5 rows where they would overlap, alternating, and then before moving on to the next skein. So I just did it to like sort of soften that transition between 2 skeins. But I know that for future ones, I'm gonna have to do the entire garment in helical knitting. So I might try, I had gotten 500 grams of this yarn, and I think I have about 60 grams left over. So I think I'm just gonna like pop it on some like 16-inch needles and like pretend like I'm doing a hat and practice the helical knitting to see if I can get any better at my tension on that transition where you like pick up a yarn and put down the other one, if that makes sense. But I really think that this one isn't too worse for wear, and the fact that I wasn't super diligent about switching out the yarns. And it has this really lovely sort of subtle variation in color of like blues and little lighter areas that I think just looks scrumptious. So very, very happy. This might be my favorite sweater I've ever made so far. Okay, so moving on from sweaters, I did have 2 three bras that I made this month. So the first two you will have seen. I did a video about making them, and these are like my daisy bras. So the first one is here, and this one I used a daisy lace from TaylorMade Shop. I don't think she carries this one anymore, but I used a mono wire, and this is a self-drafted pattern. So if you're interested in learning more about this particular bra, I'll link up a video in the corner so you can watch a little bit more in-depth process of the making of this bra. And at the same time, I was making this mono wire keyhole version, which I really love. Let's see, sort of see that against the sweater there, is it just has that little keyhole in the center front. I think it looks really cool, but it doesn't, I don't think it looks vulgar. I think it's like just enough skin. So there's that one. And then at the same time of making that bra, I just did another one that was more traditional. So using just a vertical seamed cup and my normal classic wire. I actually really like this one too. I've been wearing both of them a lot. And yeah, so little daisy bra with all white. Now I am worried, I know I've said in the past that like my white bras never stay white, and it doesn't matter what I do to like hand wash them. I tried OxiClean and all this stuff, and I can't keep them white. So I was hoping that I could, if this got a little discolored, I could dye it, over dye it. So I did a little test, and this lace must be polyester because it does not take up dye at all. I was hoping that maybe like the background of the lace would pick up dye, but like the daisies themselves would stay white. But yeah, it doesn't pick up lace, or it doesn't pick up dye at all. So don't think I'll be able to over dye it. I mean, I could if I went with like a pale color and just know that the cups themselves won't take up any dye, but the lining behind it will. So maybe that might be all right. We'll see. I'll cross that road when I come to it if I find that these are getting too dingy. So last one I did was a little fun one that I just couldn't get out of my head. So for this bra, I dyed all of my findings myself using the acid dye. I think it's Spearmint is the color from Dharma Trading Company. So obviously all the findings, the bra itself is made with just a beige sheer cup lining that I purchased from Beware, and then everything else, all the findings, elastics and stuff I dyed. I really like this like contrast between the nude and then this vibrant bright green. So I was hoping for something a little bit more muted, but I still really like it. I still think it like screams summer, so quite happy with how it turned out. The fit is phenomenal. It's the same two-piece cup as this bra over here, like the vertical two-piece cup, but I just sewed the elastics on in other places to give it sort of like some mock seaming. So there's actually no seaming there. The only seam is the very, very center one, but the rest of them are just mock seams. But I think it like, because I know that this fits me, I didn't want to like mess with like giving it more cut pieces if I didn't have to, because I feel like this looks the same regardless of whether there's a seam behind it or not. But very happy with how this turned out. And then to go along with it, I just wanted to make it a quick set. So I did a pair of like my nude bottoms using that same green elastic along the waist and leg hole edges, just for something a little sheer, because I do like, I like how it looks like just the green is floating against the body. I think this color is suntan, and I purchased it from fabric.com. It's a little too melanated for me, a little too dark, but it's not awful. I just am very pale. So last one I have is obviously what's sitting next to me right here, and this is a coat that I had made for Minerva. Obviously this time of year isn't the most practical for making a wool coat, but I kind of had to go with when it was available. I've had a camel coat, or dozens of pictures of a camel coat, in my Pinterest for a while, so it's something that I really wanted to add to my wardrobe, and when I saw that it was available, I just had to go ahead and scoop it up before it was gone, because I really wanted to make it. So who cares if it's too hot to wear it for another 6 months. So this pattern is called the Hunter coat. It is a floor length coat, and I have altered it to come just below my knees. Again, looking through my Pinterest, what I really wanted was a very classic double-breasted wool coat just below the knee. So I figured like this was a good pattern to go with, because I didn't have to change like the side seams or anything like that. I just cut off, I believe it was 9.5 inches from the bottom of it to make the length that I wanted to do. So I had measured myself with a just like a soft measuring tape to figure out the length that I wanted, cut it off a pattern. I did do a muslin just to double check that the length was working well, and it was. And I'm glad I did a muslin because I also decided that I needed to add an inch to the sleeves. So they're looking wonderful. The interior of this coat, I actually went with this like forest green Bemberg lining, which I think is really gorgeous. I had cut out cream to go with it, but I didn't love how you could sort of like see the shadows on the cream of like where the interfacing was a different color than the coat itself or the wool. And so I decided to go with this dark, luxurious sort of like bottle green, forest green instead, and I'm really happy that I did because it's really pretty. In terms of alterations, I said I did cut off 9.5 inches from the bottom. The other thing I did is add just a little welted pocket here in the front. I was not thinking about the fact that it would be interrupted by the buttons and buttonholes, so it's a little narrower inside than I had intended, but I like how that looks. It's like if you just want to throw in like a quick credit card in the side, you can. It fits really well. And then the buttons, I had so much trouble finding the right buttons. I think I went to Hobby Lobby first and I bought 2 different kinds of buttons, brought them home, and I hated them. I had a swatch with me in the store, but once I saw it against like the larger amount of fabric, I hated them, so I went and returned those. Then I went to Joann's and bought 2 different style of buttons there, brought those home, and I didn't like them either. So then I ordered some online, and when I got them, I thought they were too light, but when they took them off of the card, I actually preferred the way they looked from the back better. So that's what these are. These are buttons that are actually sewn on backwards because I liked how it looked a little bit more frosted, a little bit more like tortoiseshell, but I think it looks really good. So it's double breasted. So we have 4 buttons down here that are actually functional buttons so that it can go this way or it can be buttoned up the other way as well. And then 2 buttons up here are non-functional, but I think they look really nice. However, think that most of the time I would wear this jacket sort of like open, so I don't know that the buttons are terribly useful, but really happy with this coat, and it definitely fulfills my quota of what I wanted in a nice classic camel wool coat. So next up, let's talk plans for the month of May. The only thing I have on my needles right now is I'm working on my first pair of socks. So I'm just doing like a plain vanilla sock, and I got some self-striping yarn. This is Fable from Drops, and the colorway I got was Unicorn Party, which I was really excited about. So this is just the first sock. I started it yesterday, so it's not very far yet, but I'm liking how it's going. So I do like, it's self-striping, so I love that. Even though it's a very simple, plain vanilla sock, I can, like the stripes give it a lot of interest, and like the stripes are actually kind of addicting because I keep thinking, oh, well, I'll just knit to the next stripe. And I get there and I'm like, oh, I really like that color. Let's knit that one. And then I'll stop. And then I finish that one. And then it's like, oh, I'll do one more stripe. So it's been sort of like cereal popcorny the way I've been knitting it because I just keep going, even though I'm like, oh, I'm going to stop now. So you'll notice that I do have sort of a funny toe on my sock. And that's just because the way that my toes are shaped, I have like my big toe is the tallest toe, and then it goes straight down like a mountain. So I was trying to make a sock that sort of like followed that anatomy a little bit closer than the traditional round-toed sock. So these will have a right and a left. I don't think that this particular shape is the best. It seems to work okay on my foot. I can put it on my foot and it seems to work fine. But I think for the second sock that I make in this pair, I might try a little bit different. I think I need to increase faster up here. Like how it's going so far, I've done 1 complete rotation of the color. So this is the color I started with, and I'm finally back to that color again. But I really like the stripes. I like how they look together. And for this one, I'm planning on doing an afterthought heel. So it's like you knit up the whole sock and then you pull out a line of stitching and put the heel in after the fact. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do a contrast color for the heel or if I'm just going to continue on with the striping in the afterthought heel, but I can choose that later as an afterthought. And then in terms of what else I wanted to work on this month, One thing I definitely want to work with is this Drops Brush Alpaca Silk. So this is in the colorway Light Rust. I really, really like this color, so I want to make the Tornado sweater. I'll pop up a picture of what that pattern looks like. I think it'll be a nice lighter weight summer sweater. This yarn is super, super lightweight. They class it as an Aran, but it looks a lot like a lace weight to me. I think what will happen is when you make the sweater, it'll be a really loose gauge, and sort of like fluffiness fills in the holes. So it looks like a solid piece of fabric, even though it'll be really, really lightweight. So that one I definitely want to work on this month. And then the next sweater I want to work on this month is another one from Petite Knit called the Balloon Sweater. Again, I'll pop up a picture over here. And for that one, I have Drops Flora in the color Pistachio. So I want to pair this with Sage Drops Kid Silk, which I can't find. I've been digging around in my stash, but I know it's in there somewhere. So I think I'm going to do that. So this one will be like a nice light green sweater, which I think will be nice for this time of year. Again, it's like a fingering weight and lace weight, so it'll be a little bit more lighter weight. It won't feel as heavy, and hopefully something that I can wear during these temperatures. So that's all I have for plans for this month. And then lastly, I just want to talk very briefly on acquisitions. So it's very generously donated Malabrigo Rios 20 skeins. I used 5 of them for this cucumber sweater over here, but I have 3 more sweaters worth in the colors Siri and Hojas, and then this one is Volcan. If you want to see these yarns in depth, I will link up a video up at the top here where I go through this yarn haul. These are really gorgeous yarns, and so they're fun to take a look at a little bit closer. So that is everything that I have for you guys today. I hope you have enjoyed, and I'll see everyone next time. Take care.